Suguli Sogwik. Hello, everyone, and for this episode of Radiant Voices, we had the chance to interview John Skenandore, who works with Project Lights Out and is a strong advocate for Native communities. He was able to tell us his life story, take a dive into the opioid epidemic, and give us a glimpse into the work that he has done and what he continues to strive for in Native communities.
Yeah, if you just want to start from maybe the beginning of how you maybe a little of your background and how you got into everything and just.
Well, you want to introduce yourself, Suggy, first?
Oh yeah, no, I'm Keita's son, Vange's grandson.
Oh, Sugga's son.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man! I knew you since I was a little bitty guy.
Yeah,
I always see like a
me.
little
I was just saying,
water.
that's all I had to say.
Oh yeah. I know. Yeah, I know him since I was a little bitty guy. Yeah. Like since like 5th grade.
Yeah.
When he was a little guy.
Yep.
Sweet.
Yeah, I couldn't see him.
He's hiding under the hat.
Yeah. My hair's getting a little long.
I don't know. I started kind of getting into trouble maybe about like 7th or 8th grade.
Is it recording?
And I kind of started. I lived with my grandma and grandpa like my whole life, and I didn't have a mom or dad. Growing up, my mom went off to college to Utah, and I stayed with my grandma and grandpa. And I kind of yearned when I was younger for a mom and a dad. They say that when you're some kids don't have a dad or don't have a mom. I didn't have both. So I kind of yearned for that father figure and, that mother figure. And, my grandma and grandpa, they had, raised all their kids. They were done raising kids. Mm-hmm. But they took me, and they loved me. I had everything that a kid could want, but I still had that missing piece. I guess you could say I was kind of blind and deaf. I didn't have a mom that would be in my eyes, and then I didn't have a dad to be in my ears, so blind and deaf. A mother's love is different than a grandmother's love, and a father's love is different than a grandfather's love, And they were kind of old school, Grandpa was kind of stoic. Grandma was a little rough around the edges too. And my mom, I seen her here and there when I was growing up, but I started to get into real trouble when I was 14. I had took a swing at my principal, and then I got on juvenile, a social worker. But I grew up with since I was younger, about 4th, 5th grade. I grew up with Ludgy, Joe Slage House, Geinkali, Lucina Hall. Ron and Vicky were like my second mom and dad. Bob Williams, Teresa Barber, they were like my other mom and dad. I was at Ron and Vicky's house all through middle school, all through high school. And then I started going to jail and stuff. And we've been through a lot. I've been through a lot with Ron since I was a kid, and he never turned me away. Bob too, Bob Williams. That's who I call my dad. But I've been stabbed 3 times, once in the lower abdomen, once in the head, and once in the hand. I've been shot once. I've been in 3 major car accidents where I had to get flight for life.
Oh my gosh.
I remember waking up in a ditch. I crashed a 350Z alongside the road. And I was laying in a ditch. It had almost ripped my leg off, and I broke my femur. My leg was like jello. Oh. And that's the hardest bone in your body to break. And I called my mom, and I was telling my mom, I was like, Mom, I don't know if I'm going to make it out of here. I was like, they can't find me. I could hear the ambulance, but I was so far into the woods and into the ditch, I got ejected, that I could only stay on the phone with the ambulance, but they still couldn't find me because the car was way down there. It was a 2-seater and going at 160 miles an hour. and getting ejected from it. You know, I'm lucky that I didn't break my neck or anything, but, you know, I just messed up my lungs and my legs real bad. And, you know, I remember calling my mom and I was telling her that I was going to die probably. And she was crying and crying. And I remember them nights that I kept my mom up all the time, and them mothers that sit up when their kids are in addiction or in gangs or in the streets. I remember them nights, and I'm like, man, like the things that I did to my mom, like it was shameful later on because my mom wanted the best for me. You know, I carried her blood in my veins. You know, she gave birth to me and she loved me. She nurtured me, you know, even though she wasn't there all the time, my mom was still always all around all the time. And, you know, I look back at a lot of that stuff that I did. I was shameful, not only to my community, but to my family. It's like, I didn't want a revolving door for my kids, but I went to prison. I did over 10 years. The first time I went in for robbery with use of force. I had got into it with a guy, and he said he was going to shoot my kids' ma. So I went over to the house and I broke in and I held his wife and him hostage. And they gave me, man, I got like 3.5 years for that. And because it was either, you know, you get them before they get you.
Yeah.
And you know, it was hard. You know, that life, that yearning, that to be like the biggest and the baddest. I thought that's what a man was. I thought that being the biggest and baddest and the most feared and not respected individual, I thought that's what a man was. That was colonization at its fullest. To where, you know, it's not okay to cry. You don't cry. You just, you know, you suck it up. But that wasn't right. You know, that wasn't what a man was later on. That's not what I wanted to be for my kids. And I was the Inca. I had the highest position in my chapter for the Latin Kings. I wasn't just the off-branch gang member. When I went to prison, I had 150 guys underneath me. I sent hits out in prison. I've sat my time for everything. I've put in over 10 years. I don't glorify it, but I acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I take responsibility for what I did. I don't try to promote that persona or be like, hey, you know, man, I did this, I did that. You don't glorify stupidity.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't get rewarded. You know. But I've been under investigation for a murder, and then they came and hit me with another murder when I was in Milwaukee, and I had nothing to do with them. Some guys had got into trouble, and I got a no process before, and you know, I was cleared of the charges, but you know, it's like you're just so reckless and you're dealing with lives all the time. You know, I had the Secret Service after me a long 10 years ago, you know, just for crazy stuff. They busted in my mom's house. You know, I put my mom through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, and my community too.
You know, looking back on that, do you feel like you said that, you know, this was a man and things that you yearned for, that all obviously play a role into you joining a gang and trying to find that wherever you can fit in and, you know, who you are. Do you think that you found or had these realizations mostly while you were in prison or when you sat time, or did some of it kind of pop in while you were out and you were just like, I don't want to live this life anymore? Or was it that alone time?
Well, going through prison, you know, the first couple times, jail didn't do it. Trauma, they say through tears we learn. The trauma didn't do it. Of all that trauma, that didn't change me. It made me a smarter criminal going to prison.
Yeah.
It made me hungrier to not get caught the next time sometimes. incarceration can work only if you let it work and you're at your ends peak.
Mhm.
You know, and that last time when I got out, 2018, April 17th, 8 o'clock in the morning. I remember it because I did I did about 5 years. That was the longest stretch I had to do that time, was about almost, it was like a couple months less than 5 years, and that's the longest I ever had to do. And I knew that I was at Oshkosh doing an AODA program, and I had 150 Latin Kings underneath me, and I had got told on, and they shipped me to a max prison, and I was locked down for 24 hours a day sometimes, or I was locked down for 23 hours a day and let out 1 hour a day. It was a max prison, and that changed my life.
Yeah.
In there, I started to study political philosophy. And there, I studied 5 different languages. I started to look more into my culture, but I didn't want to read a book. And I used to think that going to Longhouse was boring. I used to think that doing any of my medicine societies, all that was boring, and any of it, you know. But when I looked around, I seen the other gentlemen that were confused. They were longing for an identity.
Yeah.
And I had my identity, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I knew my Indian name. I knew my clan. You know, I knew some of my language. I knew my medicine societies for Oneida. You know what I mean? Our clan systems. You know, just a lot. And I took that for granted. I thought that it was like, well, you're native, so you know that kind of stuff. But it wasn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't like that at all. These men were yearning for the outside communication from their tribal communities to correspond with them, their elders, when they're on the outside. Because a lot of them guys that are committing crimes too, they live off of the reservation, and they don't know their family. They don't know anything. They've taken on a Latino identity. They've taken on a Black identity. They've taken on an Asian identity, because the gangs that they join consume their Native American identity.
Mm-hmm.
Our Native American culture, like for when somebody dies, purple and black, or purple and white. With gangs, they have colors too. Gangs have songs. Our culture has songs. Gangs have a language. Our culture has a language. So their whole identity is taken. The criminogenic aspect, or the criminal element of a person, when you're a criminal, is replaced. You know, it's the culture's taken right out of them. They talk a certain way. You can tell what gang they're from how they talk. Anything. It's just their whole identity is wiped out. Instead of following one of our chiefs or our clan mothers or our faith keepers, runners, anything, they'll follow the president for their gang, or the vice president, the secretary, etc. You know, their chain of commands. Or instead of looking to the elders, they'll look to somebody higher, you know, on the pole. But it's just a total opposite. People think that, oh, well, them kids are just joining gangs because they want a different family. It's not that all the time. It can be for money. It can be for gain. It can be for protection. It can be when you it can be for when you're not paying enough attention to your kids. It can be for numerous reasons.
Longing to fill some kind of void at the end of the day, right?
Yes. Yep.
And then you had said you noticed a lot of people around you. Are you referring to more Native American boys around you when you were doing time that were looking for that, or just young men, youth in general, like looking for some kind of guidance?
Yeah, it was the majority was Native American, Hispanic, a couple, Black individuals, but the majority was Native and Hispanic. Anybody that was in the struggle, and they have, they just how we have, like the Code of Handsome Lake or the Great Law of Peace. They have a constitution and a manifesto. They have books that they have to read and laws that they have to abide by also. So That's the same exact thing. It's their code. It's their code that they live by. Just how we have them. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. But yeah, it's a lot, and the drugs. I got heavy into drugs in 2008. When I got in that car accident, I started taking Percocets, and I didn't know that you could get addicted to pills. And I cage fought before I got in a car accident, and they said that I would never fight again, and I believed them. So I started taking Percocets, and I got up to taking 4 Percocets a day. And I found myself being addicted to pills. And then China White, it's stronger than heroin, or as strong. I never shot nothing, but I was sniffing it because the pills weren't doing nothing. And I had pain in my legs. And one day I was living in Milwaukee then. And I remember taking that bottle of pills. And I remember just literally hopping to the bathroom. And I dumped all the pills down the toilet, and I flushed the toilet. And I went through the withdrawals for about 4 to 6 days. And I remember feeling like I was going to have a seizure, like my whole body was on fire, like I was going to die.
Yeah.
It was horrible. That was one of the worst feelings. The way I smelt when I sweated, my stomach, just everything. I never wanted to feel like that ever again, I felt weak because I let something take over my mind. That's when they talk about them mind changers, that's exactly what it is. It's one of them mind changers.
And would you say that's worse than any sickness you've ever had? Like the flu and stuff like that?
Yep. When people are in addiction and other people are not in addiction, they'll be telling them, oh, you can get through this. But until you go through them withdrawals, it's going to be hard for anybody to fathom what that feels like or what you're giving up, because you'll go the first couple days, you'll see what you're made out of. If you can make it through the first couple days, it starts to lighten up, but there's no way to describe how it feels on your body.
Yeah. Like your body goes to war.
Yeah. Yep. It's horrible. It's one of the worst feelings.
So do you think
I ended up cage?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I ended up cage fighting after I went through the withdrawals and stuff like that. And I beat what the doctor said, because they said I would never walk the same. They said I wouldn't be able to run or jog or nothing like that. And then I started working out myself, and I ended up taking a fight at the Waverly Beach and Checkered Flag, all over the place. I started fighting again, and I won. All my fights lasted 30 seconds or less, and then I moved up a weight class to 175, and I fought and I won again. I won all 3 rounds anonymously, but I was depressed because I thought I would never fight again or walk anything,
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I started using pills and stuff.
So do you think from there, when you decided to put that away and try to obviously better yourself and prove them wrong, at what point did you get into the mentorship or to moving into that space?
2018, when I had got out of prison.
That last time, okay.
Yeah, I did some whole time, and I came up with Project Lights Out, and I started writing a book on my life, and I casted my vision, which was to start gang prevention and a peace work initiative. That's how it started out. And I started out by, I had my own show. I was the host, and
Yeah.
I brought in, at the VFW, I brought in gang members, addicts, women who were in prostitution or sex trafficking. I brought them on my live show, on Project Lights Out show. So I started doing that, And then I started to go directly to the gang members, directly to the drug dealers and talk to them. And I try to replace, because when you look at a drug dealer, I had to come up with something that would be the equivalence of if you stop selling drugs, how are you going to have income again? Because they're not going to just stop selling drugs. That's their job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I did that, and I started to try to teach them the basic 4 steps of business: a sole proprietorship, a general partnership, a LLC, and a corporation. That's what I went to college for. The first time was business admin. Then the second time, human services.
Mhm.
So I did that, and I wrote my own curriculum. So I started out doing the tribal action plan with Daniel Guzman. My first presentation was in front of Daniel Guzman, Debbie Thundercloud, Ludgy, Rocky Hill, and I think one other person was there. So they sent me to Minneapolis down there for training at MAST and SAMHSA.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a hard time with why we couldn't move on certain subjects. I knew that it was our lawyers that kept hearing red tape. I didn't know the political realm of tribal politics,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which was really hard for me because I figured, well, you know, if you guys were going to make a move, you would have already made it by now. And me, I'm the guy that has to ruffle the feathers, and I'm the guy that doesn't go along
Yeah.
with what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't go along with what everybody else wants to do just because one person wants to do it. To me, I have to look at it now. If I'm truly changed, I went with the crowd before, but now if I go with the crowd, it has to be for the right reasons, and it can't be to where you're a people pleaser or a
Following.
pleaser of just a certain group. And I don't believe in, you know, I'm not going to get into the political realm, but I don't believe in an agenda that's going to be stagnant. I have to have a vision casted in front of me. I have to have primary objectives and goals that I believe will benefit the people, not just a certain group. I don't like that at all. It has to be for the people and by the people, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's
But-
pretty crazy because, like, yeah, when you talk about like as a group in a whole setting like that, I know when I was in school and we're like learning a little bit about law, they said typically a law will kind of come into effect 10 years after society makes it a norm. So like, especially with like, you know, like a big subject now is like marijuana being used like as medically, because it was a class, it was a class 1. Now they're moving it down to class 2. And that way, so they can start using it for medical research. But that in certain locations where people were really pushing that agenda, I mean, this was like in the 1980s, 1970s,
Right.
and they weren't passing legislation until the early 2000s. And like, so it's crazy when you think of like how like someone starts like the snowball effect 10 years prior, and then 10 years later, something actually happens.
People finally catch on or
Yeah.
make it acceptable
Mhm.
socially, or, you know, how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like some like the initiatives that you start today or you started last year, you might not see the actual
Effect of them.
the effective product of it until like 10 to 15 years later,
Yeah.
which is like could be a little disheartening, but like
Yeah, I agree.
like you said, like you stuff that you start working on, you're just like, wow, you start really seeing it come to light within 10 to 15 years. Which is
Yeah.
a long time.
Well, any lucrative project is going to be, man, I was working from 6 a.m. out the door until midnight. I was trying to catch them 75% of domestic violence calls that were being called in. I did domestic violence on emergency rescue. I'd go over there and the girls would be all beat up, kids screaming, clothes all over. I'd try to get them to press charges. And if I had to go there after they left, I'd get all their stuff, talk to the dude, and it does get physical sometimes, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to handle it professionally, and violence was my last means necessary.
Right.
And then I did anti-sex trafficking and prostitution. My project, we found missing children,
Mm-hmm.
We worked with Damascus Road, Lisa. I don't know. It just kind of spawned out into a bunch of different things. But my primary objective was to go directly to the problem because I believe that enough awareness was spread. I figured if we could, I figured that if we could have speakers come in for thousands and thousands of dollars, pay for thousands and thousands of dollars of training, and they're getting per diem, lodging, mileage, everything. Why couldn't we go directly to the problem? Recovery coaches, we train 30 of them and then only have one. To me, it was foolishness. It was a means of getting the grants and then just using them, and then it wasn't doing nothing. You know what I mean? It was it was a selective few. Like, look at Pre. You know, I was mad. I was pissed off. You know, she raised about some of the biggest money that Oneida has seen, and then it's like it didn't even make a damn dent. You know, in where it needed to really go. It reminded me of the 75-25. 25% of the actual money goes to the actual cause. 75% actually goes to overhead, you know, the lights or a salary or whatever it may be. And I didn't want it like that. You know, when I was raising money, I threw these events and I paid out of my pocket. I didn't get it. I think one time I got something from housing. I got $500 from housing through their HUD program. But other than that, we fundraised. I had a powwow. I did all kinds of events every week, and people kept saying, "You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that." And I told them, I was like, "Where the mind goes, the man follows."
Yeah.
You know, and I just had to plan, and I had to call in every single favor that I did. And I learned that if we didn't work with other tribes, that we weren't going to get anywhere. I seen large mass meetings, large people from down, when I was down at that mass meeting with Daniel Guzman and Debbie and all them, I got a little award down there, but it made no sense to me to go through the training and then not put it to use.
Right.
We were out there just spreading awareness. But then it's like, wow, when are we done spreading awareness? Now, don't we take action, or are we the tribal action plan without action?
Yeah.
It just didn't make no sense to me. And I was at odds after a while, you know.
Would you say that you felt like you had, did you feel like you had more positive energy towards you, or do you think it was more negative as far as like, this is going to work, you can do it, keep it up? Or do you feel like more people were like, this ain't going to work and just keep spreading awareness and that's all that is?
Well, yeah, we threw a couple picnics, but what it came down to was you got two kinds of leaders. You got a leader that jumps out there, which is a warrior. He goes to the front lines. You can see the blood stains on his shirt from where he rolled up his sleeves and is ready to go to battle. And he's been in battle. He's got scars from battle. But then you got the second kind of leader that sits in the back and is barking commands, but will not lift one finger to jump out there at the front lines. And I told him, I said, you got them two kinds of leaders. I said, but them warriors are the ones that the boots on the ground that are going directly to the fight, directly to the people. And then you got the guys who are going to be smart and strategic, hungrier and sharper, that are going to be in the back, like know that they're going to be troubleshooting. That's where your risk management comes in. And I just didn't understand it that, okay, well, we can't do this, and this because it's a liability. I'm like, okay, well, this year, Brandon did a couple things that I asked for. You know, I asked for deer cams, I asked for drop boxes for needles. But after a while of fighting internally, they say a kingdom that fights a kingdom will fall. If we have internal conflict within our tribe and everybody's not on the same page, our whole tribe is still crumbling to this day.
Yep.
It turned into that big dark spirit that has drifted through us through genocide, through spiritual genocide, through historical trauma, to cocaine and crack. Then it turned into pills. Then it turned into heroin. Then it turned into meth, and you know what I mean, and fentanyl now. And it's taking our kids, and it's been getting stronger and stronger and stronger. You know, and it's like, okay, well, we have fractions within our tribe. We have guys who just do sweat lodge. We have guys who do peyote meetings. We have guys who do longhouse. We have guys who, you know, go to church, whatever it may be. And these families, they have one thing in common that they forget while they have internal warfare and won't talk to each other. They all have lost somebody to addiction. They all have lost somebody to senseless violence within the community.
Yeah.
That's where they can come together on that and have that unity,
Right.
you know. And it's hard, you know, because no, I didn't see eye to eye with the business committee, and I asked them hard questions. I asked the hardest questions, you know, and I asked them, I said, you guys can come on my show and, you know, and I'd like to ask questions. Nobody wanted to do that. It wasn't for self-gain. It wasn't some jest at anybody, you know, but the community needs the hard questions answered.
Right.
And when you're a tribal member looking up to the tribal and I learned that it wasn't just the business committee. I had to troubleshoot, you know, our CFO, assistant CFO, everybody plays an intricate part in getting it done, right down to our HRD. If we're getting the grants and we're not hiring the people after we get the money, then it's going to be, well, where's the accountability?
Right.
We're setting primary objectives, but we're not getting the accountability that we need. If you have 6 months to a year to get this project done and it goes over that, then there needs to be that accountability, a sanction, a penalty, whatever it may be. And it's just hard because I asked them, I said, well, you guys are part of the TAP committee, but we're getting the funding, but we weren't doing nothing with it. I said, and you're the chairman. So then why don't we dissolve this and then come up with the people who are going to be active in it? So there was 4 people there at the meetings. And I'm like, well, we have one of the worst opioid crises. And then I had Remembrance Day. I remember E3 telling me like, hey, man, this was a good ass idea. You know, we had 45 people that I had Remembrance Day for. That little Reed boy, when he had killed them 2 elder people over by Cornelius Circle.
Yep.
Josh Webster. I had the list was huge last year. This year,
I remember that. I remember seeing that.
Them mamas were crying, them aunties were crying. You know, they got up there and they spoke, and they needed that closure. They needed them questions answered, and they got to let it out right there. You know, and that's probably one of the best feelings that they can have is like looking over at that other mama or that uncle or that auntie or, you know, them fathers and being like, man, I know exactly what you're going through. I know them tears that you go through of whoever gave your kid that same drug or whoever did this to your family has done it to mine. I've been wronged, you know.
And sometimes it's so unfortunate that it takes that such a tragic experience or experiences for that unity to finally come clean, no matter what, like you said, no matter what department you're in, if you're on this committee, that committee, or whatever happened, it takes death of these young people, of all of our people, to finally be like, what are we going to do and how can we just get there? You know, and sometimes it has to hit you so close to home for somebody to finally maybe put the pride or that little segregation that they have or whatever that is to the side and say, can we please do something about this, you know?
Yeah. And I learned that money doesn't solve everything.
Yeah.
So I wasn't mad about the money. I was mad because there wasn't action being taken. It would feel good to get your chairman to come to that grieving mother's house. It would feel good to just get any one of them to just go to some of these people who are hurting and be like, hey, we got
We're
your
doing
back.
Something. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's the best feeling. And, you know, I had so many calls. My wife was just in awe because 6 a.m, I'd be out the door, and then by midnight I would be gone because I'd go up to the one stop for suicide calls. when they wouldn't want to call OPDs, they would be calling me for suicide calls. And I went through suicide prevention training down with the Ho Chunks. And when I got there, I said, how many people, there was about 20 people in the class. So how many people here have actually been to a real suicide call? 2 people raised their hands. I said, these questions that we're answering, they're not realistic. I said, when I go there to them suicide calls, I go there and I'll calm them down and I'll comfort them. But they're hysterical a lot of times. But I don't sit there and ask them, are you feeling like you want to hurt yourself? I don't ask them the top 5 to 10 questions. They got something that they need to get off of their chest when they're suicidal versus me just asking them a bunch of, like, pressuring them with questions. They got something that they need to say. They got something inside them that's so dark and deep as to where they have everybody around them and they still feel alone.
Yep.
Mhm.
Their spirits are wandering. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want out of life. They have no purpose, no meaning sometimes. They don't know why they feel like that.
Yeah, they feel like nobody hears them. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what, I hear a little bit of a pattern of what you're talking about. And what I see myself working in the field is that what people, and go back a little bit when you said, well, it'd be nice to have the chairman there to see these grieving people, but it's not really, from my perspective, you're not really saying, I literally need the chairman to be there. What you're saying when you're talking to suicidal people or blah, blah, or, whoever's in their trauma or these real life situations is what you're saying is that, we need to take them hats off and we need to be real with each other.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing you say. And I really believe in that because every time I've talked to somebody, every time I've had that experience with somebody, I'm not asking those questions, those 1 through 5 questions either. I'm just, everything's off. I'm just being real. I don't have to know. I don't have to have a professional hat on. I don't have to have a degree to be able to have that real talk, to have our own people to be, I almost want to say, the real people with each other, so that's what I'm hearing you say over 3 times now. I've heard you say that in different situations, different circumstances. So, and I totally commend you for that. Cause I kind of want to say that because sometimes people will take it personally, like for example, you were not saying names, or it's the chairman, or we're having titles. This is what we should be doing. You're not saying that. You're not saying you should be doing all these things, but you're saying you're trying to me, and what I'm hearing is that in general perspective, we need to be real with each other, and this is who we really are as a people, and we need to get back to that.
Right, and make it safe for me to.
We're not a corporate business. This is not about being corporate business. This is about being
human to human, like real life feelings. Because just like you said too, I like how you said that as far as like people really trying to handle emotion, trying to process an emotion, and it's so unfortunate and it's so disheartening when somebody can literally not handle an emotion, or they feel so not heard or not as a person that they literally want to end their life. That's why people literally grab the gun and want to blow their head off, is because they cannot process an emotion, and they don't or relate or understand that everybody goes through that. Everybody has had a moment in life where we couldn't process something, and we would rather have, probably just not been alive instead of dealing with that and facing it. And that's basically why we even do this show, why we started this podcast, was to just let everybody know, title or not, background or not, all 3 of us have the craziest, most different backgrounds. And all we want to do is spread the awareness and let everybody know, like, look, man, trauma and real life happens. And this is a real interaction, human to human, like no title, anything aside. Like, I'm here for you to listen, to talk, to let you know, like, you can get through it if you know what I mean? The intention has to be there,
Yeah. I try to hit it from all different angles, law enforcement, working with the mayors, village presidents, the different groups for community policing, like neighborhood watch. I try to gather everybody that I could and get them on the same page. But it's hard though, because I had to ask, I went and talked to Bob Brown maybe about a month ago. I went right over to his house and I gave him that tobacco and I had some questions. And it was really hard for me because I was asking for Leander, I asked for a couple different people. I was like, what is their duty as clan mothers, chiefs? What is the responsibility of them? And not very many people wanted to tell me, what it was. I wanted them to tell me though. I know that we do ceremonies. I know that, and I don't blame I don't like to just blame a certain fraction of people.
Yeah.
But it feels good when you have people who have a face, people who have a name coming to you and being like, because when I go out up here in this part of Indian country, a lot of them know me. Man, that's the Project Lights Out guy. And I'm not prideful. I'm not boastful. I'm not arrogant. I'm very loving. And I give that compassion to everybody that I can, like, hey, what's up, man? I try to help out wherever I can, but it's like that seclusion and isolation. It's hard. And I asked Bob some really tough questions, and he told me, that there was going to come a time when kind of people are going to be turning their back.
Mm-hmm.
We have prophecies within our in our culture,
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for me to hear that, and I'm like, man, like I just didn't understand it.
Almost like we're accepting
so,
that. Yeah, almost like we're accepting like a doomsday. You know what I mean? Like, why can't we change that and come together and change that prophecy?
Yeah, and I couldn't understand certain things, and I'm like, man, like I know that I was like Tadadaho, before they sang him out of that lake and stuff. I had them snakes in my hair and they had to be combed out. I had a crooked mind, but I told them guys, I was like, you have to want that change. You have to embrace that change, and change hurts a lot. You become full, like you're a whole new person when you want to change.
It's scary.
You don't enjoy the same things that you do. Your whole circle of friends change. Your whole life, it's like a new revolving door. It just does a full circle.
Yep.
Your attitude towards things. You don't get standoffish about everything,
Yeah. It's like you unlearn all your old behaviors in your whole life, all to relearn the new you. And you don't even know who that is yet. You know what I mean? In that process, in that moment.
Yep. And you can't take everything personal, but sometimes they say to protect your reputation at all costs, because credibility, I learned, it took me a long time to get my credibility back. People can only talk about what you've done, not what you're doing today.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard for people. And I've met like, top dogs, like for politically wise, leaders of different movements. I've sat with like all the different council members in Wisconsin, chairmen, vice chairs, chairwomen, and I guess it's that mutual respect, but they have all the same problems in their part of Indian country. The whole chunks, the Lac de Flambeau, Bad River, Mole Lake, everybody. You have a lesser, I'm not saying, I guess not lesser, but you have a people that are still questioning the people, the leaders of the community, the leaders who they voted in. They're looking for more out of the leaders to step in and take a bigger role within the community and not treat it so much as a business.
Right.
Yeah.
We understand that it's treated as a business. That's what their positions are for. And me, I had to really be in there and be on the grind with some of our business committee members to see the 5 to 10 projects that they work on. And if they're working off of salary, that's not a lot when you're putting in like freaking 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, and you're working 5 to 10 projects and you're on different committees. How do you do this? Like, how do you manage all this stuff? It's like you're going from one meeting to the next. You don't have personal time. And then after a while, I was like, damn, our community has to step up. So then I tested the community. Okay, well, we got Brandon Stevens now, which is, I'm very, very pleased with him. I'm big head, like, man, Brandon Stevens is doing phenomenal. He has stepped out. I'm very happy with what he's doing with the community now, stepping out with this opioid and taking it head on now, and then not just spreading awareness. He's getting the shit done,
Yeah.
And I'm really happy about that. But it took a lot for like him to be the example now. And I wish that was the new normal, to where they're like, we're going to follow Brandon Stevens' lead, and this is what needs to be done. And this is what the community is asking for. This is what we're going to do.
So would you say like a lot of that, like that hard press, like we're trying to make all this change, and you say we have like really good leaders, but would you like go back to it saying like it's a system problem too? Because if you look at it, like we were given an IRA government, which goes to like a business, more business minded. And you said a similar tribes all across Indian country all face a similar problem. And if you look down to it, a lot of them have the IRA constitution. So if we kind of connect the dots here, we have a lot of great leaders. We have a lot of people that are making headway, but it seems to be like when some type of leaders create a change within their own tribe, like Brandon Stevens has, who has gone past the norms of what the traditional government would hold and bound our leaders to. He takes that step outside that realm, which is very difficult to do, right? Because you're kind of going against certain norms, certain things that have been going on for 50, 60, even 100 years. And it takes someone that's like, you know what, maybe we'll try this at a different angle, different tactic, different pursuit. And then it's actually successful, and then people kind of follow the lead, which is like a headway leading into like a crazy situation. Because
yeah, I do believe that, because it takes one person to not be a yes man and go with what everybody else wants. If that one person is willing to stand outside of that circle of seclusion, then things can change. Nobody wants to be on a losing team, because they're going to be like, well, I didn't have nothing to do with that. That's how it is a lot of times. Yeah. And in tribal politics, you need to know. Yeah. Yeah. And in tribal politics, there's two kinds of Native Americans in there. You have concrete Indians and you have traditionalists. Traditionalists are going to be for, usually they don't want to spend money a lot of times, and sticking with the older ways. The concrete Indians are for kind of big government, and they want to move forward. We have to spend money to make money, and it's two different kinds of Native American thought. And that's hard, because when they bump heads, and if there's a 4 to 5 vote, 5 concrete versus 4 traditionalists, it's going to be, you're not going to get nothing done. It's so hard, and then if you have a leader and everybody else is scared to go against what the leader says, then it's going to be like, man, I'm thinking about getting voted. It's just like a damn presidency, but it was made that way. It was made that way, and it's been that way for such a long time.
Almost like systematically set up for like a slower change. Yeah, maybe change is there, but it's a much slower process. Whereas, like you guys had said, Brandon Stevens is willing to take on a lot more criticism, a lot more even like little Facebook battles of posts that might be controversial, or we do it this way because that's by the book. And he said, no, at what point do we take that stance and go for change? And I'm just going to risk it,
Yep.
It takes that person to do that.
Me and him have had our rounds. He was my main critic. He was my main rival. I went up there. I was pretty mad. I went up there. I went with a smudge bowl, and I brought my fan and stuff, and I left it up there. I was a little pissed off. He's like, "Come on up here," and then I went up there. But in the end, I had to stand down, because later on I learned that it's not just business committee.
Yeah.
We are a living, breathing entity. And that doesn't mean that, oh, it's just a business committee. Like I said,
Yeah.
it's everybody. It's the community that's the arms. It's our chiefs and our clan mothers, you know what I mean, that are taking the lead, our clan mothers, you know, giving them duties to the chiefs. And, you know, the community, though, they asked for great change, but a lot of them were not willing to come out and actually be a part of the change.
Right.
There is a couple handfuls that, you know, maybe 20 or 30 people that you'll see here out of, you figure we got, what, 17,000, 20,000 Oneidas. We have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 on the res. You know, that's a lot of people. And if they band together and can start putting the grit down, not only do you need your warriors, you also need all them political heads at the front. You need your clan mothers. You need the biggest families that you can get, the Danforths, the Corneliuses, Skenandores, Metoxins. You need all the Pauluses. You need all them families on board, no matter what, for that great change to happen. And I told him that, I was like, how come we can't get them all together? Just because their religion that they practice or their spirituality that they practice, it cuts them off from the other families. It's like a high and by, or oh, they do this, oh, they do that. And it's like, okay, well, let's get together and see if we can squash that bug. But that pridefulness, I think that's what I've seen. I know a bunch of people that are like that. They're really super prideful. They're really, really prideful about what they do. You know, that's like,
And
they
I
just
think that
do
it's
not
tough
agree.
because with the older generations, even, we need to put that division down or that little family beef down or whatever the issue is, put it down, because the common denominator is our people are still dying. Our young people, our warriors, everyone is dying because of the same drug, the same issue. And because of these little minor details that, people aren't ready to let go of, even for that moment. You can go back to that and go back to disliking them for whatever reason or whatever, but let's do one thing together, and let's stop the death that's happening in our communities. But it's
right.
hard. I can see that's hard, for these people to do that.
All right, I'm back.
So what are you working on right now? Are you still doing the project Lights Out, or where are you?
Right now I just had my baby, so I stopped doing Project Lights Out for a little while.
Yeah.
I had 12 deaths in 1 month.
Oh my gosh.
And I helped out with 3 funerals. I helped out with Chucky, Willie Adams. I helped out with Kermit, and another funeral in one day. So, I helped with their fires, and that I was doing more. I sing, so I was singing at funerals every week. When them 12 overdoses happened, my best friend died. Man, it was just a lot of death within 1 month. There's just so much. It was hard. That was some of the hardest times in my life. And, I had to take a step back and reevaluate my life and what I needed for my family. I know that my community needed me, but I think my family was getting sidelined a lot because of the work that I was doing in the community.
Right.
And, I just had my baby. He's 1 month old, and then I have a 1-year-old.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations.
Yep, I'm trying to put the Oneida population up 20 kids. No, I'm just kidding.
Well on your way.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So you're just taking a break for now and then figuring all that out. I mean, you have to take time for yourself. And like you said, reevaluate and check in with your family, because that's your foundation. That's your support. If you don't have that, then where do you stand? How do you help other people? You know what I mean? You're not able to.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of had a hard time because after I asked for help from Bob, and he's like, I'll get back to you, because I was at my last, because after them 12 deaths, that's when I went and talked to Bob, and I told him, I was like, I need help. And I want to know about our warrior societies and, what they did, and he told me a little bit about our warrior societies, but it was like, I needed that extra push because my son overdosed. My son is 15 years old and he overdosed, about maybe 4 months ago. So I went and got him. And, I had a hard time with him again because he's on drugs and he's in the streets. And I told him, I said, you get the best years out of your father. I was like, I'm not in the streets. I'm not on any drugs. I'm not in a gang. But yeah, my son got addicted. He overdosed about 4 months ago. He's 15 years old.
It's unfortunate.
So yeah, I was dealing with that. And then my daughter, I went and got her too. But my kids didn't want a dad that was sober. They wanted that other dad that was in the streets and, the opposite. They weren't used to the dad that I became. And I told them, I was like, that them days are over. They're done. And my kids' mom, she's in Minneapolis right now. And my kids are down in Green Bay. They jumped right out of the window over here and ran away about 2 months ago. Over here, we have rules, though.
Yeah.
It's not a free-for-all. My kids are 15 and my oldest daughter is 18. So I can't have to where you're a danger. You're bringing drugs into my house. You're bringing guns into my house. You're sneaking people into my house. I cannot have that. I have other kids also, so I have to protect my other kids from my other kids. And that's what it comes to after a while. And I don't want it to be like that, but that is the reality of things. And I love my son, but right now, though, he don't want treatment. There's 3 ICW reports I made, couple CPS, juvenile justice workers. I've taken him to ceremonies, taken him to church. I've put him in Willow Creek, WRC, made the behavioral health appointments. Call the cops, like they've brought him back here and back to Walnut, back to Hillcrest, our other house over there. They've brought him back to all the houses. Nothing has worked. He just got caught with meth and the police officer let him go. That was the first time he got a little citation. He was with Benno Salzman and Misty Thunder and them. That's when my son overdosed. I came down there on a rampage. I went to the drug dealers' houses. And I did. I went right to them, to their houses. I confronted them. You know what I mean? Everything. I didn't want that to be a part of it, but you guys just gave my 15-year-old son drugs that overdosed him. He thought he was taking a line of cocaine, but he took a line of fentanyl.
Oh, jeez.
Yep. Heather House, all of them. And then I put Heather House's picture all over the place. I didn't hold back anymore. I made that a normal thing to where they made them great big lists of drug dealers, suspected drug dealers, and they posted them all up in Lac du Flambeau, Mole Lake, Bad River, all over the place. They made them healthy lists. People were coming forward. Fed up parents after your kids would overdose or whatever, they're coming and actually opening up to law enforcement, and breaking the realm of, that snitching. And I'm like, I don't care what it is. I said, you can come confront me. I don't want it to bring it to that level, but it's like, you guys don't care if you're giving my 15-year-old son heroin or meth. Like there's no boundaries. It's like, it's just money to them.
Yeah.
So it's bad.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate the time and explaining everything to us and allowing, answering all these questions we had and going in depth all that. I know it's very personal, but that's what this is all about, our podcast, and trying to, like we said, spread awareness and let everybody know, like, we've all been there. We all have things that we need to process and emotions that we need to figure out. And it's all about how you want to move forward. And like you said, with that intention, you can't help anybody that doesn't want to help themselves, no matter how close they are to you. And sometimes it's so sad to have to let your own child go through that journey. But, it just, my heart breaks for all these young kids, that are into that.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, you're definitely right.
But all we can do is be the change and try to work together and try to move forward somehow, and hopefully much sooner than later, because, you saying that was like 12 deaths in a month and so, like, we can't keep having that,
Yeah, that was horrible. Yep. You're right.
As people move forward from stuff like that, and without it being how, like you said, posting everybody's picture, and then, now that the conflict comes that you're snitching or you're a rat or this or that, how else would the next parent, if that parent who's calling you a rat or whatever, if their kid overdosed now, are you going to, I would probably do the same thing. You know what I mean? For my kid.
Yeah.
So it never,
Yep.
It's always easier to judge until it's literally your child. Mm-hmm. That's the one that ODs. And then we're going to see how, how you handle it.
Well, after I did that, I went right to their houses. I didn't, I guess not cower, but I was pretty pissed off, so I was confrontational then, and I went over to their, looking for them. I was looking right for them, Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just OD'd my kid. Started off on the east side, ended up on the west side, but yeah, it is hard.
How's he doing? How's your son doing today?
He's not doing good. He's last I heard that he was doing heroin.
Man.
Yep. He's on a run. He's on a run since he ran from my house. I had to let Forest County Police Department and the school know that he ran from my house. And he's down somewhere in Green Bay. I used to get up at about 2:30 in the morning and ride around and look for him every single night and chase him around, go to the school 4 times a day. Then after a while, I was like, I'm way up here. I can't sit there. You're going to be 18 in a couple of years. I was like, when you're ready to go to treatment, I was like, all I can do for you right now is pray, because I've jumped through every single hoop. I've put my family on the line, confronting these drug dealers that you're getting your drugs from. But I could take down 10 drug dealers and you'll just find another one. I got him to St. Joseph's. And I looked back, I opened the door to walk him in, and he already ran. I had to call Alloway's over there. Willow Creek, we were there a couple times. I went to all the IEP meetings, met with law enforcement, juvenile justice workers. They couldn't do nothing. ICW has reports. I gave them CPSO. I don't know what more to do for him. And I told him, I said, if you die, son, I said, what are your last words? I was like, and what do you want me to tell your family? I said, because that's the road that you're going to be walking soon. I said, you are going to die if you keep doing these drugs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're having those tough talks, like, that's what our families go through. Mm-hmm. And that's the tough thing to do. And you have a lot on your plate. You lost your best friend. You had a newborn son.
Chris.
Yep. Had a newborn son. And you put a lot of work in, I'm thinking, the last 2 years. A lot of energy put forth, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And so how do you take care of yourself? I know your wife, I know you talk highly of her. I know you think that's your backbone, but what are some things that you do? What's your perspective? I mean, do you get a chance to grieve? Are you grieving? Do you,
what's your healing process?
I go to Sweat Lodge a lot.
Yeah.
I go to Sweat Lodge every week. And I got medicines that I carry too. I had to have protection medicines because I got sick last year. Mm-hmm. My whole family, I had to get a lot of stuff, resolved. I went to Sunny. I had to get a reading. I had a lot of things I had to take care of internally within myself, because if I couldn't, heal or help myself, then I couldn't help my community.
Yeah. And it's crazy how much
You
of a
know, and
responsibility that becomes, you know what I mean? When you take on these medicines, and it's not even take on when these medicines come to you, because when these things happen, they're the ones that choose you, you know? And
yep.
it's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with, on top of just checking in with self, like, how are we doing today? And sometimes it's so easy to put that on the back burner because you just lost 12 people in the community, and somebody's calling you on the
Man.
suicide line, and, you know, you're trying to do this and that, and a new baby, and, you know, a son overdosing. And I cannot imagine. And being you, I commend you so much for being able to just hold it up and even be on the show tonight. You know what I mean? Like, you could have easily just been like, I just got to take some time and figure my own grieving, process out. And that's a lot, it's
My
definitely.
father, they try to say that my dad wasn't going to make it till last month. They gave him till November. Oh, they gave him November. He was supposed to be gone, and he's beating them odds. But during that time, though, I lost Willie Adams, Chris Newton. The list goes on,
Yeah.
of people, like really close people. Like, hey, bro, are you coming over tomorrow? That was the last text I got from my homeboy, and then he passed away. But why it was so hard for me was because he was one of the biggest heroin dealers on his reservation in Kashina. And he reached out to me, and I went and got him, and I embraced him. And for months, got him a concrete laying job with my cousin Two Bears, everybody knowing. And then one bad night that he was pressured, he caved. He did drugs for the last time in his life and passed away that night.
Oh my gosh.
So then the next morning, I see the messages on Facebook, and I'm looking, like, I put on there. I didn't believe it. I put on my Facebook Messenger. I said, brother, I said, tell me this ain't true. And then I didn't see his little face pop down. So then I knew that he passed away.
Man, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So that was hard,
Yeah.
But just everybody, this is the most I've lost in 1 year. Last year was pretty wicked, but you don't know what you're bringing in with you when you're out there helping all those different people. Them suicidal spirits, them addiction, all that energy that you're picking up.
And sharing.
I got so sick.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
I wasn't cleaning. I wasn't getting cleaned off, and I wasn't cleaning myself off.
Yep.
And I put my family in jeopardy because there's that dual fight. There's a spiritual realm that you're fighting of unseen forces that you don't know, that you're challenging. And when you're putting a dent in, because we can help heal things through our medicines or whatever it may be. We're taking that energy, but we're not releasing it places. And I had to learn how to release that energy of what I was taking in, of facing off with them things, but I didn't challenge them because they're real powerful. It can make you sick.
Absolutely.
But I had to clean myself off and get all the protection med, everything, and just, it was just hard for me though, because I didn't know that. I didn't know what I was up against. We started to see big, black, tall figures moving around in my house. And like, I was like, what the hell is going on? Stuff moving around. And I'm like,
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what the hell is, what's going on here? And man, but I had to get my house taken care of, and us too, we had to get taken care of and stuff. And Uncle Randy helped me out a lot, man. He, gave me some good stuff for myself, and I just had to do that self-care. But right now though, I'm in a good place in the spiritual battle, of protecting myself, my family, and my house. Everything around me,
It's like an everyday process. You know what I mean? Every day putting up that protection, and then every night disconnecting. I think it's so, I tell myself this all day, always just be mindful of where you share your energy, whether it's through social media or in person conversations or just in passing when you go to the grocery store. We don't, as Indigenous people, sometimes don't realize how easily energy just attaches to you, especially when you're on the the lighter path. You know what I mean? That dark is going to stick to you like nobody's business. And people don't really learn that until they're really either doing good and then they see certain things happening to them where they're kind of scared or they kind of put themselves in danger unintentionally. But like, so we need to just be so mindful of where we allow our energy to be placed and shared, and to make sure we call our own energy back every day and then disconnect from everyone else. It's a huge process, you know, mentally, spiritually. That's the battle.
People being jealous or people being envious or people sending different things towards you.
Yep.
Speaking it into existence is just words are extremely powerful. Emotion is extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's just like, man, like some people they're happy for you, but they're not happy with kind of what you're doing sometimes.
Yeah.
Because
I've seen that
forces people to be accountable for themselves.
Right.
And that's a difficult thing.
People want to see you doing good, but not better than them. You know what I mean? They want to see you doing good, either level with them or just a little lower, but I don't want you to be better than me. You know what I mean?
Brings up your own crap.
Yeah. Of what you're not doing.
It brings up your own crap. You know, it makes you accountable to yourself. It's like, you know, well, you know.
That's powerful stuff when we start getting into that kind of energy. You know what I mean? That envious, that lack of accountability. That's a very, very tough one, you know, when we're not mindful.
Yep, well, you're right.
I just want to say, young go to you for everything that you've done. It feels like you clear a path.
Yeah.
I don't know what your name is or what it means, but you're bringing something, that's for sure. Something, you know.
Lolux, he gathers.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is.
So I appreciate you, what you do bring, you know, what you're bringing, you know, sometimes that I don't think it's the easiest to hear sometimes when you're upfront like that. And I don't think it's easy to do either. But I like talking with you. I like hearing you because then I can hear your intent.
Yeah. I
can hear you and see
can feel the energy
who you are, you know, and sometimes that piece is missing, you know, like I don't, you know, I met you face to face. The first time I met you, I was like, whoa, who's this guy? I was like, whoa.
Firecracker.
Yeah.
Firecracker. Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
That's a whole lot of energy. No.
He's gathering all that energy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you know, when you start talking, it was a different story.
Yeah.
I could hear somebody that was has a lot of power and was channeling, I want to do something here.
Yeah.
I want to make a difference. And so I just want to say thank you for that. And not everyone's going to agree with how you do things or how you speak or whatever. And that's okay, you know, because you're all unique, but I feel like you're fulfilling your purpose, right?
Yep. And that's what it is. Finding purpose. And, you know, everybody has a purpose. They just do have to find it, you know, and their identity. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned in this work. And my main thing, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, is that I've learned that if you respect creation, that means that you respect the body that was given to you.
I love that.
Whoa, hey, you froze up.
Around you. If you respect creation, you'll live in harmony with everything. And you'll respect its energy and you won't take from it what doesn't need to be taken.
Well, dang, you just made me more accountable now.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotta go home and smudge and get my shit together.
Yo.
Yeah, thanks, Johnny. I'm just kidding. Joking. That's awesome.
Yes.
Very awesome. I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, I look forward to hearing, you know, more about, you know, your Project Lights Out if you do get back to that. And, you know, I definitely will be on the lookout for that. And I wish the best on you and, you know, your new baby and your son as well and the rest of your family.
Yep.
And, you know, thank you for coming on, man. And we really appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all won't go.
Yep. Hoyan.
Yo.
Hoyan.
Nogiwa.
No, you are.